You're listening to Blaxit Radio with on-air personalities in Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico, and Tanzania. Playing smooth jazz, quiet storm, R&B, reggae, and the very best talk, 24/7.
Without further ado, let's welcome Kema to the show. Kema.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for being here today. We had a lot of changes in schedule, but it looks like we finally made it through today. And I'm really excited to talk to you after all this. I remember when we talked before, you're doing some exciting things. Maybe you could start off by just introducing yourself to our audience. Tell them a little bit about you, your background, and whatever you want them to know.
All right, my name is Kema Ward, socially known as Kema Ward-Hopper. I am I'm an Army brat, but we came to Costa Rica by way of Houston, Texas. And we've been here almost a full 5 years come July of this year. I have 2 children, a daughter, Erilyn, and a son, Nikolai. Nico is actually Costa Rican. He was born here. And my daughter was 9 when we moved here, and she's currently 14. And my husband, Nicholas, also made this move with me. And we live in Nicoya now. And we just moved here a month ago. We've been here almost 5 weeks. So we moved away from Playa San Miguel, which is on the coast of Guanacaste, and it's like a beach town, rural, very rural, dirt roads, and we moved to the city.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to move to Costa Rica?
Yeah, so in 2016, I'd gone through a long battle with breast cancer. And directly after, and I mean directly after, so I quit chemo and we beat cancer. And then I had a reconstruction surgery where they took my latissimus dorsi from my back and brought it around the front. So because I had radiated tissue, I needed unradiated tissue to do an implant. So it was a major surgery. I had 32 stitches in my back. And Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. And we lost our home. So, it seemed like a lot at one time. It was illness, and then we lost our home. And then after the aftermath of Harvey, we were looking for a new home. And every time we found one, the market was so crazy that the house would be sold almost sight unseen. And we were hardly ever able to get to see a house. And then my husband was like, you know what, babe, maybe we're looking at this wrong because now we're not attached to anything. And so I was diagnosed in 2016. In 2015, we had planned a 1-year sabbatical with our daughter to travel to Central and South America. But once I was diagnosed and had to go through that, we canceled it. And so he was like, well, maybe this is the opportunity for us to leave, but on a more permanent basis. So that's what ultimately pushed us out of the US, was losing our home and kind of being in limbo. And before we trapped ourselves in another mortgage, we wanted to just go and explore and see what happens.
So you never got a chance to go around to any of those other countries that you had originally planned?
No, we didn't. And we had planned to go to Belize, Costa Rica, and within Belize, just one place. In Costa Rica, I think there were 3 places we were going to visit, and then we were going to go to Brazil. And there were 2 places in Brazil. And so over the course of 12 months, we had planned this out. We had gotten the health insurance and the Airbnbs. We had booked everything out and planned it meticulously because we weren't going to quit our jobs. We were just going to take a year sabbatical.
Oh, wow. But okay, but what made you decide on Costa Rica? You didn't go to the other places. You ruled them out, but you left Costa Rica in. What was the reason for that?
Because we got married here.
Oh.
So, before my diagnosis, my husband, who was my then boyfriend, had proposed to me. And we had started planning our wedding. And the wedding planner, we knew we wanted to do a destination wedding. And we wanted to go someplace that neither of us had ever been. So she brought up Costa Rica. And I was like, oh, I've never been to Costa Rica. I never even thought about it. And so that's how it came on our radar, was through our wedding planner. We got married here. When it was time when we decided we were going to leave, Costa Rica was at the top of the list because when we came, I was in the middle of chemo. I was in the midst of chemo when we got married. And I felt so good after 3 weeks in Costa Rica. So we spent a week at the resort where we got married, and then we spent 2 weeks driving around. We went to Turrialba, Escazú, and San Jose. And at the end of the trip, I had put on a little bit of weight, but in a good way, because I had lost 35 pounds with the chemo.
Wow.
And I had energy. I was like going on walks with Nick, and on our wedding day, like I had to take breaks because I was really, really tired. The chemo had me really down, but I felt so good. And we just couldn't believe, and we weren't very strict with our diets either. So we were eating, in the States, we were plant-based. And so we were eating chicken and cheese and bread and all the things. And and we just felt so good and so full of energy. So that kept Costa Rica on the list. Ghana was on the list. And then I think one of the Nordic countries, like Sweden or something like that, because of their healthcare and school practices.
Right.
But we quickly ruled them out because of the cost.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's like when we were going to go to France.
Yeah, the cost is crazy.
Yeah.
And so Ghana, we ruled out because it was so far from home. And all of our family is still in the States. At the time, Nick's grandmother was still living. My grandmother is still living. And we just didn't, in an emergency, we didn't want to be that far away from home.
Right, right.
So
well, what was your exit strategy? Uh-oh.
I don't know that we had one. So we decided in December of 2017 that we were going to move. So the hurricane hit in August. By December, we had missed out on like 3 or 4 houses. We said, okay, we're going to go. March, we came to Costa Rica on a recon trip to open a bank account. We came and we opened bank accounts and looked at some properties. And then we moved July of 2018. So it was like 8 months, 7 to 8 months between deciding and moving. We just sold everything that we didn't lose in the flood. And we came there, honestly. And I am a strategist. Like I normally do plan more.
Right.
It felt
right.
It felt right. And it felt urgent. It felt like, no, we need to do this now. And prior to us moving, I had really gotten into gardening. We had a condo. And so on our patio, I had created this like oasis of plants and fruits and veggies before I got sick. And while I was sick, I would go and sit out there, and those plants took care of me. I felt that way. So all these things, these skills that I was doing right before we moved, they came in super handy once we got here. And so all of it just really felt serendipitous, very serendipitous, because everything felt right. So we came with plans, what we were going to do. I was a recently certified yoga instructor at the time, and my husband and I wanted to open a retreat center. We had no idea, that COVID was coming. So I think we got like 2 retreats off before COVID happened. But yeah, we didn't really have like a serious strategy. It was just sell, figure out how to make income. And my husband had set up some passive income things because we're young. We're not getting retirement. We're not getting any pensions or anything like that. And so our plan was really just get out and figure it out on the fly. But it felt urgent for whatever reason.
So what did your friends and family say when you said you were leaving?
There were mixed emotions. One of my aunts just flat out cried.
Oh.
Another one of my aunts was like, great. So when things go south here, you already have prepared a place for us. And then everything falls in between those two. Like one of my aunts was like, oh, that doesn't surprise me. Like, yeah, that's on par for who you guys are as a couple and as individuals. My mom was excited. My sister was excited. So for the most part, it was good reaction.
Well, that's good. So you decided to settle. Okay, have you moved more than one time since you've been here, or this is the same place that you originally started?
Mm-hmm. We stayed in that first place for 4.5, almost 5 years, and then we moved here.
Oh. So tell us a little bit about the community that you're living in. And then also, can you tell me what's the difference that you feel between the first place that you lived and this place? Because I feel like places are so different in Costa Rica. You know what I mean? It's almost like another country or something. So tell us a little bit about the differences between the two. Maybe if you like one better than the other, let us know about that too.
So where we were, we had $1 million view. Okay. Like I have thousands. I know I have probably between the two of us, thousands of photos of like the sunsets and the ocean and the sky, beautiful sunsets. We were in the jungle on the top of a hill with an ocean view.
Wow.
Facing west. And I loved it. I really, really loved it. It was very small townish. Everyone knew everyone. And it felt like home for so long. Here in Nicoya, it's much larger. So everyone doesn't know everyone, though you start to recognize people in the places that you go, which can give the perception of a lack of safety. But I don't think that's it. I think it's just there's a comfort in knowing everyone. We knew the police officers and the teachers and the shop owners, the neighbors, everyone knows everyone. That's how small it was. So to give you perspective, at my daughter's school, in her elementary school, because she started 4th grade, there were only 6 of them in her class.
Wow.
In her grade. And then when she went to the colegio, there were 24 in her grade, and they were all in one class. But now that we're in Nicoya at her colegio, there's 8 sections of her grade.
That's quite a difference.
Yeah. So it's much, much larger. And there's probably like 4 or 5 colegios also. So that's just the one that she's at. But there's also other schools that she could have gone to, but the one she's at has 8 sections. So it's just a much larger population. We're closer to infrastructure, so we can take our son to the park. We're going to get him enrolled into school, into daycare, to free up some personal time for us. We don't have to take an hour, or not an hour. We don't have to take a full day to go supply shopping. So each place has its pros and cons. I can't say yet whether I like one place more than the other. I miss the connection to earth. Where we are, we're lucky. We have there's a river behind us, lots of trees, and it feels like you're in the jungle, but you're not. But because of all the lights, here. I don't connect to the moon and the stars the way that I used to at our place. And we also have to deal with people, not in our space, but we have neighbors and there's people that we see like every day. In our other place, we could go a week and not see another human being because we were at the top of a hill at the end of a road. And the only reason that you would come up there is to come to our house. So it's just different. I mean, you know.
So how far are you from an airport in Decorah?
Now we're about an hour.
Excuse me, about an hour?
About an hour.
Is it Liberia?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not far. And before it was like 3 hours.
Oh,
like
wow. Okay.
We were 2 hours from the nearest hospital.
Ooh.
And so
is there I assume there's probably more than one hospital in Nicoya.
Well, in Nicoya, there's a Caja hospital. So that is for emergencies only. We had to go there once when we were living at the other place during COVID. And so it was a good little drive. But if we need to go to the hospital and it's not an emergency, we would drive to Liberia.
So so you're in a bigger place now, so I assume you have pretty good access to services, grocery shopping. It's probably pretty easy there. But what about hair products? Because, you know, Black women are always concerned about how they're going to get their hair done, you know, what products are going to be available. What's it like in Nicoya? I know it's not really that great here in Escazú, if you ask me, but what's it like?
I don't know, honestly. I have always made my own hair care products.
Oh.
Before we moved to Costa Rica, I used to have a company called Mother Nature, and I made artisan skin and hair care products for people of color. Even though everybody used the products, I had just as many white clients or non-Black clients as I did Black clients, but I've always made my own. And so when I came, we just continued that. When my mom visits, she'll bring little stuff like gel or edge control and stuff like that. And shampoo and conditioner, we bring that in from the States. I have not looked. I know I was looking for hair once because my daughter wanted box braids and we couldn't find. We found some, but it was not good quality hair.
Right.
So I haven't found anything.
So suggestion would be if you're going to move in that area, bring your own.
Bring your own or make your own. Like I make flaxseed gel and we make hair butter and like spritz, rose water spritz and things like that for our locks. So yeah, we don't buy anything. I haven't bought any hair care products here outside of like rose water.
Right. So what's the entertainment like there? Any things to do?
So we haven't gotten out much yet because
How long have you been there?
5 weeks.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're really new. Okay.
Yeah. So like the first few weeks we were just kind of like getting moved in, getting settled in and getting acquainted. There is a restaurant that is walking distance from our house. And one day, it's been a couple of weeks now, one of the maintenance guys here said, hey, they're going to have a band coming from San Jose. It's going to be live music and dancing. And so I told my husband and I was like, and it's right there. I was like, so why don't we ask Carolyn, my teenager, if she'll watch her brother and we just go check it out. And so we did that. We went, we had a good time. We danced a little bit and came home, but it seems like there's stuff like that. Like, but we haven't gotten out a lot to see. There's no movie theater. You have to go, the closest movie theater is Tamarindo, I believe, or Liberia, either of those. And
how far are you from Tamarindo?
I haven't driven it from here yet, but I'm guessing still about an hour, maybe an hour 15. Okay. I don't think it's super far. Yeah. there's a few national parks here for people like that kind of a thing. There's Barra Honda, and they have cave diving. There's some waterfalls that are close by. So there's a lot of natural stuff.
Yeah, Costa Rica.
Yeah. But nightlife, this is very much a Tico town.
Oh, okay.
So, 5, 6 o'clock, things are shutting down except for the bars and restaurants. But there's not much outside of that I've seen yet. So we'll see.
Well, so La Jolla has the blue zone.
Yes,
So
it is
that
the
part
heart
of
of
the
it.
blue. Yeah, so that's like part of. I would think that's a great place to be.
It is. I didn't realize much about blue zones until we moved here and people were telling me about it, and very much feel like we have benefited from being in the area and the slower pace of life and the access to quality fruits and vegetables. Even when we were in Playa San Miguel, we had deliveries. We had produce deliveries on Mondays and Wednesdays. So it wasn't bad. And a lot of our neighbors grew. We could go and get things right off the tree or out of the ground. And we grew a lot of things as well. So I think we definitely benefited from it because I got pregnant with my son.
There you go.
And once I finished with the cancer battle and everything, when I was done, my last visit, they were like, okay, so we're going to refer you to a fertility specialist because we know you and your husband want to have more children. But it'll be hard because your reproductive system was severely affected by the chemo, because I had a really strong, aggressive chemotherapy. And we just said, you know what, don't worry about it. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. We have one, so we're okay with the one. And we kind of we were happy with our lives, and we came here. Chemo had put me into early menopause. So, and I thought that was it. Well, after being here for, I want to say like 6 months, my cycle came back.
Wow.
And I thought it was because the doctor had said, that happens, it'll come back and then it'll go. And so it came back, and at first it was really irregular. Then it was just like it was before, where you could set a clock to it, and then it stopped again. And I was like, oh, that was it. Like, that was like the last hurrah. And then a week after it stopped, I was like sleepy and sick. And I was like, could I be pregnant? Like, no way. And I was very much pregnant. And that was like, so we moved in July, and August of 2019 found out I was pregnant. So a year later, one calendar year of being here, and my body had healed enough and pushed out enough of that poison for me to be able to conceive.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I heard the story about how you guys got your other house, kind of like sight unseen through somebody that you were dealing with before. But how did you get this house?
Also serendipitous. We were looking. The reason we moved is, well, the little one and my oldest, she wanted to attend Colegio Humanístico, and it is one of the colleges that they have in Costa Rica that are connected to the University of Costa Rica. And so you test in the 9th grade, and then you start in the 10th grade. And when you graduate, like, all of your classes count towards a college degree. Mm-hmm. So, but it's a partnership with the university and the high school. And so we were like, all right, we can't drive because that's a 2-hour drive every day. We couldn't do that. So let's look at starting to want to move. And we needed more space. Our house there was just a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and which was fine for the 3 of us. But now we have this little boy that is going to need space. I need him out of my bed. And we started looking. We could not find much. And we went to see a house the weekend before we found this one, and it was a disaster. And we were like, oh my God, if this is what it's gonna be like, this is gonna be so hard. Like, we don't know. So we're looking every day, every day, every day. We're looking. And then just when my husband was like, well, maybe we just stay here for another year and then go, because we had time, because right now my daughter's in the 8th grade. He refreshed his phone and this house popped up. He looked at it, he saw the space, and he sent it to me, and I called the contact and I said, can we come tomorrow to see it? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I had my son's birthday party there like tonight, but if you're okay seeing it because it won't be clean yet. I was like, yeah, we just want to come see it. So we come and we bring the ladies that used to work for us, because they're like family, and we brought them too, because there's Costa Rican customs, there's things that we may not know to look for, so we just brought someone with us that would be better versed. When we get out of the car, do you know the mirta plant here? It's myrtle. It's like a bush. It smells like jasmine.
I don't know.
When we get out, they're in full bloom, and the whole place smells amazing. And my husband, before we even walked in, he goes, this is it. And it is spacious. It's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, indoor kitchen, because our kitchen was outdoor at the other place.
Oh, really? Wow.
And it was really kind of romantic at first, but after rainy seasons, you're like, no, I need an indoor. So indoor kitchen, indoor bathrooms and showers, because our shower was also outdoors at the other place. And just all of this space and all of the trees and so much green, and people think Nicoya and they think concrete jungle, but this is like an oasis in Nicoya, and it's on a well. So all the things that we said we wanted when we were trying to manifest a place, we got: paved roads, close to services, still feels like you're in the jungle, lots of space, and the price was right.
Wonderful, wonderful. So is it this, how much more is this one than the other one?
Honestly, at the end of the day, it comes out to be cheaper. So at the other place, when we first moved in, it was $500 a month, and that included a groundskeeper. The groundskeeper we found to be creepy, and I had my daughter, and so we asked them, could we hire our own groundskeeper? And they were like, sure, we'll take $100 off of the rent, and you use that to hire somebody to take care, because groundskeeping was included. So our rent went down to $400. We found somebody who would do it for less than $100. And everything cost more. What's it like? Internet there was $100 a month. And when we paid for water, here it's $550 a month, but groundskeeping is included, water is included, power is included. The only thing we pay extra is Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi ended up being like $40 a month for twice the speed that we were getting.
Why is that? Because because the service is better out there?
Well, here we have fiber optic. Here we have fiber optic, and there's multiple companies. So there's a competition.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Out there was a monopoly. There was only one.
They charge whatever they want to charge, right? Right.
And he was charging the gringos $100 a month.
Because you have it.
Yeah, and it was satellite, so it wasn't even fiber optic. It was satellite internet. But yeah, so it's either about even, or we're getting a better deal here just because we're not paying for some of the services, and the one service we are paying for was less than the other, than the Wi-Fi in Playa San Miguel.
Right. So you're renting, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts of buying at any point in time, this place or another place?
I don't know. I guess we want to make sure we want to be where we're going to be.
Right. That's important. Right.
Yeah. And then like, even I think I told you this before, the house where we were, it wouldn't have made sense for us to buy it because we were renting it for $400 a month.
Oh, right. I remember that.
He had it
It
priced
was 30 years to
he had it priced for almost $500,000. Like,
right.
It didn't make sense to purchase it and then be responsible for all of the repairs and anything that breaks down. And so it just makes sense. If at any time that changes, then we would be open to looking to purchase something. But what we made a mistake when we came initially, we was like, oh yeah, we're gonna come and we buy. And we saw this place in Hohancha, we paid a deposit, and then fell in love with where we were and didn't want to go to Hohancha. So the owners, they have agreed that if they sell the land, they will give us the money that we paid them back. But right now our money is tied up in land that we don't want and that we're not going to live on. So I always tell people, if you're coming, rent first. Don't even entertain buying until you've been here for several years, not just 1 year, several, because you need to be in a place for a full calendar year.
Yes.
Because of water, like rain and all of these things. You need to be there for a while before, to know if you're going to be able to hack it into place.
And the rainy season is quite different in different areas as well.
Yes. And by year.
Yeah. What happens in the rainy season, some places, it's terrible. Your internet goes out, your electricity goes, all kinds of things. And then other places, people don't have any problems at all, so.
Yeah.
So you need to know.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Now, you were telling me about the schools, about going to school there and everything. So do you think the education is pretty good there for the children? Because you're not homeschooling.
No, we homeschooled Erilyn when we first came. And then we did a co-op with another family. But Erilyn wanted to go to school. And it's been really good because it really helped with her language development.
I bet.
Yeah. And she's learning the same things that she would have learned in the States. And in some cases, she's ahead. So like now at the school she's at, she's in one of their advanced programs, and they have a different curriculum than the other 8th graders. So she's learning like math. They're on like a 9th grade math level, and they're in the 8th grade. So I don't know in comparison to the United States where they are,
right?
But she has a book, a math book that she got from the United States that helps her practice. And it seems to be on par with, because it's for 7th and 8th grade. She was able to use it both years, 7th and 8th grade for math. But now she's phased out of that book. So now they're studying things that are not in this book that's supposed to be 7th and 8th grade math based in the United States.
So I'm assuming she likes it, the school and everything.
Yeah.
Being in Costa Rica.
Yeah. She said she never wanted to go back to school in the States.
Wow.
Because the culture is different.
Yeah.
The culture is different. She felt like the teachers here were a little more caring.
Right.
And she had great teachers in the States, but I think the teachers here may have seemed a little more personable. She's like, they don't yell at us.
Right.
That was in elementary school. She was like, yeah, they don't yell. And she's like, and the children were nicer too. So she's like, yeah, boys are annoying, but there were really no bullies or anything like that she had to deal with in the United States.
Right.
And she really likes the culture, like the culture around school. And she said she does not miss. She's like, I never want to have to go back to doing lockdown drills.
Oh, they were doing that in your school? I was gone. So
yeah, they were doing lockdown drills. And I remember her coming home and saying, Mom, I was trying to explain to my friends today what a lockdown drill was or an active shooter drill was. And she's like, they couldn't understand no matter how much I was like, well, yeah, so if someone comes to the school with a gun, and she's like, well,
that doesn't happen, right?
They couldn't wrap their mind around it. And so she said that she's not interested in it. She's like, get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, good for her. And I would think that it would be a different culture in the schools as well, because the whole culture is just different here. And when we used to live in Gracie, I used to think it was so different. When the mothers would be walking their kids to school, or they would walk them to the bus stop and put them on the bus, and then the kids would get on the bus and they would just sit there so nice and orderly. They weren't yelling and screaming. The older kids weren't, you know how older kids can get. They weren't doing, no profanity, nothing. They were just sitting there nice and, nice and quiet. And then in the evening, I guess the moms would be back at the bus stop, and and I guess the bus driver knew all the route and all the kids, and he would just drop them off. And then sometimes they would give the bus driver food through the window, and they would deliver packages and stuff.
Yes, my daughter came home one time with a whole chicken. And I was like, where'd this come from? She's like, Betsy gave it to me. I was like, when? She's like, she came to the bus and she handed me this chicken. They slaughtered chickens and wanted to give us a chicken. So
wow, it is different. It is really different. So that's really wonderful that she gets the opportunity to grow up and have her life be in a school like that. Because if you ask me, the way the school systems are going in the States right now,
especially with the banning of books and all of these things, it's like, I'm glad we're not having that. And we still homeschool in some sense, because it's important to me and to her that the things that she's learning, that she also learns them in English. And we figured this out, I think it might've been her 5th grade year. She was talking to me about something, and then in the middle of that, it was referring to one of her internal organs. She said it, but she said it in Spanish. And I was like, what? And she said it again. I was like, why are you saying it in Spanish? She goes, oh, that's the only word I know for it. So I was like, oh, okay. So science, she'll come home and we do it in English, and math, only because the way they do symbols here. So decimals and commas are swapped.
Oh. So
like for $25,000.50, it would here it's 25 comma, no, that's in US, 25 period 000 comma 50 cents.
Wow.
And so, and the way they do division, the symboling is different as well. So she teaches me the way that they learn it, and then I teach her the way that it is in English, because I know that she wants to get like a degree here.
Right.
And then she wants to also attend an English speaking university and get a degree there. And so it's like, well, with these things, these are the things that I want you to be able to know them ahead of time. So, so yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about the projects that you have. You were telling me some interesting things. So let's take some time here and let's go over what you're doing and what's near and dear to your heart, and fill our audience in on the exciting things that you're doing in Costa Rica.
I have the Agbada experience, or Agbada retreats, with my best friend, Amber Wood. We have 4, our plan is to have 4 retreats a year that are standard, and then we do private retreats as well. And 2 of the 4 retreats are for Black women only.
What's Embodies?
Agbada is Yoruba for power.
So power retreats.
Powerful. Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you another question. Did you know Amber in the States?
I did. We went to college together. She's been my best friend for 23 years.
Oh, man. How nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And she's my son's godmother.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
So we have Agbada, and we do healing retreats for women. And then we have 2 a year that are for Black women specifically, just to create a safe space for Black women to let loose and be able to do the things, especially Black women coming from the States, that they're not always permitted to do without being seen as weep
Like
or
what? Like what?
cry, vent,
Oh, okay.
heal, just spaces to just let loose and talk about the things, our unique experience walking this earth as Black women in whatever country that we're coming from. So that's one thing that's near and dear to our heart because we have an affinity for women. And I also recently became a certified death doula. And that I found out about death doulas before I moved to Costa Rica, and it always interested me. And instead, I went through the certification of becoming a birth doula, and I did it, and then I never practiced because I don't think my heart was in it. Mm-hmm. But then when my sister passed in 2020, in 2020, literally starting January 1st of 2020 up to 2022, within my family circle, I think we had 7 funerals.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it was a lot. And I saw my family struggle in various ways. And I thought it just brought me back to the death doulaship. And so I found a way to learn more and get certified. And that is something that is near and dear to my heart because
Can you tell people a little bit about what a death doula is or does, or the purpose?
Yeah, the purpose, doula means, well, it means servant, but it is an aid to women. So a birth doula is an advocate for the birthing person, the laboring.
Is it like a hospice kind of thing? I mean, like, I know it's not a hospice, but
it's
do you
not
act like the person that would be in a hospice that would help someone when they're dying? Is that what it is? Or
yeah, so you can be a legacy doula. That's someone, you can do all of them, or you can focus. So a legacy doula, or the legacy part of being a doula, you help somebody with their legacy, be that a project that they want to do, or writing letters to people, allocating their belongings if they want to make sure that things go to certain people. Then there is an 11th hour doula, and that is the person, or that part of the job is when you labor. So you labor in birth, but you also labor in death. And the laboring person in the 11th hour, when they are about to die, so this is the last 24 hours when they've started showing signs of laboring, the 11th hour doula is there to comfort the dying person and also their family, and also just to honor the dying person's wishes. If they wish to be alone, or if they wish to only have certain people, or if they want to have this music playing, or they want to whatever it is, whatever their desires were, the death doula is there to support them. And then post-mortem, you can have post-mortem body care. So helping clean the body and prepare the body for whatever disposition is coming. And then making the phone calls for the family afterwards. So calling the funeral home or the mortuary, whatever it is that you need to call, and educating people on what their rights are in death, and what the various dispositions, because there's more than just modern burial and prior cremation. There are other ways, especially within the United States. There's other ways that you can dispose of your body. And so those are some of the ways that death doulas serve. They help with grief, like helping you grieve and seeing that this is a natural part of our cycle. Like the only thing that we have in common with every person on the earth is that we're born and that we're going to die. But there's such a taboo on death. People are scared of the body, and this is just bringing some of the onus back to the family to take care of their loved ones in death. And it helps with grief. I didn't get to see my sister when she died because I was stuck here, and my son was 15 weeks old. Wow. The embassy closed. So I couldn't even get him a visa. And he was not a US citizen yet. He was a Costa Rican citizen.
Oh, no.
And I was nursing, so I couldn't leave my 15-week-old baby here in Costa Rica and I wouldn't have been able to come back because at the time we weren't residents.
Oh, wow.
So, you remember that whole debacle, right?
Yes.
So we weren't residents yet because he was just born. I couldn't take him with me and I couldn't leave him, especially since I wouldn't be able to come back. And so I had to miss out on grieving with my family and seeing my sister, and it lit a fire in me to learn as much as I could about this process and helping people. And so my target audience would be expats within Costa Rica that don't have the familial structure here to help them at the end of life, because a lot of people don't want to go back to the States. I've met so many people who are approaching those years and they don't want to go back, and they want to have a plan in place that allows them to stay here.
Wow, that's exciting. So what are you doing now to let people know that that's what you do? Because I didn't know.
I have not made the announcement yet. With the move and everything, I wanted to move and get my son situated and then make the announcement. So I guess this serves as the announcement.
This is the announcement, everyone.
This is the announcement. I am going to put information on my website, and I guess I'm going to, there's a couple other doulas in Costa Rica, which is great because as a death doula, you need a network because I can't take every case, right? There could be very real burnout because these are people that you will get to know and create connections with, and then
they'll pass away.
And so I've met only online a couple other ones. One of them is in our group.
Kendra?
Kimberly.
Oh, Kimberly.
Kimberly.
I thought Kendra might be something like that.
I'm not sure, but I definitely I think it was Kimberly. And so I want to maybe do like a death cafe. I know they want me to come back to the community that I used to live in. They want me to come back and give information and do a death cafe there to give people their options. But yeah, people will be able to find me on my website if they
give us your website. Give us your contact.
Yeah, so the website for me as a yoga instructor, as a teacher, because I am a certified English and Spanish teacher as well, and for death doula services is going to be unpluggedcr.com. So www.unpluggedcr.com. Okay. And for Agbada, for the retreats, it's agbadaexperience.com. So AGABARA experience.com.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting. And I mean, you have some pretty exciting things that you're working on and that you're involved in. And I think you're right in the right area too for those things. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you think of like going back to nature and wholeness and peace and whatever when you're in Nicoya, not when you're in Escazú necessarily, right? So I think you're just, you're in the right place for the things that you're doing. So that's really admirable. And I wish you much luck and success in your business. I'm glad to be able to announce it here on our show on Blaxit Radio. And while we're at it, can you tell me what was do you think was the best thing about moving to Costa Rica, and what was the worst thing when you got here? Any surprises?
The surprises, so there were good and bad surprises. One of the good surprises was how friendly everyone was and how community oriented people were, even outside of their communities. My husband and I came for 6 weeks and then went back and got my daughter. And when we got her, that was October. So it was peak rainy season. And that year was a hard rainy season. And on our way back, once we got to the paved roads, one of the bridges, it was a short bridge, but it was like rushing water. over it, and is the only way for us to get home.
Wow.
But there were people there, and there was a guy on a 4-wheeler, and he like walked out on the bridge, and he was guiding people across. So he would guide you across to make sure, because you couldn't see the edge of the bridge, water just rushing. Guide you across, and then you help the person that was behind you. And that's kind of how that was, getting people across this bridge that nobody could see. We had people just so helpful and kind, and it was. I hate to say that was the shock, but that was one of the shocks. And one of the bad shocks was nature, right? You don't realize how much we have killed nature in the States until you're here, right? And like ants, ants are just a part of it. I don't know about in Escazú, but out here in Guanacaste, ants are a part of it.
I haven't had ants here, but I did have ants in Gracia. And our landlord would come over and he would say, "Oh, those are the such and such ants. They come out and they do this at this time of the year. We go back over there. It's like, you're not going to do anything? No. Those are just ants." Okay.
And we learned very quickly. So there are some ants that you do need to get rid of, but for the most part, most of them were very specific. Like, and the army ants were the most intriguing. And the most shocking, because they come through, but they kill everything else in your house. Like, you want to just let them do what they do. They come in 30 minutes, an hour, and then they're gone.
I had a hard time letting them come in. I was at the door putting cinnamon on the door. Oh, they're getting in.
Yeah, no, they're hard. Those are hard. But yeah, so those were the shocks. Those were some of the things, and the only thing that I miss about the States is my family and my friends.
Right.
Grieving without the comfort of my loved ones was hard. Amber came and visited me a few months after my sister passed, and she was the first person. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. That's so crazy. She was the first person that I saw that knew my sister, other than my husband and my daughter. And I didn't realize in that moment how important that was. Like, that's an important part of grief, is grieving with people,
right?
Like, together. And then having my son, my mom and one of my friends was supposed to come, and they couldn't because of COVID. He was born April 26th. My mom's flight was going to come in like April 10th, but the borders closed on March 18th. So she couldn't come, but my husband put her on FaceTime. So she watched the whole thing. I went into labor at 1 a.m. My mom was online at 3, and she stayed until after he was born. So that part was hard too, not having the care, like how women care for a woman after she's given birth.
Right.
I had my mom after my daughter. I didn't have her after my son. And I appreciated it even before my son, but after him, I now know what it is to be cared for by a woman after you've given birth. And if I can be that for other women, because I have had the doula training, I will, especially if they're unable to have that support from someone else. Because we had a home birth too. We were at home, and it was just the 5 of us. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, thank you so much, Kema, for talking to us today. I really appreciate it. I had a wonderful time. I'm glad we finally were able to narrow this whole thing down, and I didn't have to cancel today because but anyway, thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck.
Thank you.
Se o que acabou nunca existiu.